Good evening, this is Talking in Board Games. I'm your host, Jay Bruce, and this is my guest,
Elliott Carter.
And today we have a special, I suppose, game of Connect 4. As you can see, it is SpongeBob themed. Yes, show that to the camera. But yeah, so tell me a little bit about yourself, Elliott.
Well, I'm 16 years old, and I play tennis, and I do poetry, and I like to play music also.
I see. And so 16, so you're in 11th grade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm about to be 17 in a few days, actually.
Oh, nice. Happy birthday.
Oh, thanks.
But yeah, so I guess we can go ahead and get this started. Do you want to go first or second?
I like to go first.
Oh, of course. So yeah, you said you like to play tennis, right?
Yeah.
I see. So how long have you been playing tennis?
Since I was a freshman, so just a couple of years.
Right. And so, how do you like tennis, since you've been playing it for so many years now?
Well, I guess it's fun, you know. Well, I mean, I'm not that good at it. Like, it's just kind of tennis.
Right.
You just kind of play and then hope you win, but you usually don't win.
I got you. And so you also mentioned, I believe, poetry, right?
Yeah.
I see. So, what do you like about poetry in particular?
Well, I guess my favorite aspect about poetry is you can really just, like, instead of having every thought stuck in your head, you can lay it out in front of you, and then you can really critique yourself and evaluate situations.
Right, right. And so do you think when most people write poetry, do you think a big part of it is trying to sort of critique themselves and maybe even figure out, like, what they can improve on in their life?
Yeah, well, it's also, they can do that, or they can use it just as like a healing tool. Just like, this is the way I feel. Right. So, you know, like the classic, when you think of poetry, you think of like a gothic kid writing in their book. But I mean, really,
a love-struck person who's writing to their boyfriend or girlfriend.
But I mean, really, like anyone can do it. Like like a sports guy could do it if he wanted to. Like a football player. You know, I heard one poem about football, and it was one of the most unique poems I ever heard.
But, and so, something I've found with poems a lot of times, right, like, it'll have, like, the football or sports or whatever in it, but that won't necessarily be, like, it'll sort of be, like, a major theme, but then, like, it won't just be about that.
Yeah.
And so, with poetry, like, because a lot of times with, like, writing, there can be, like, very, like, literal interpretations of writing, but then a lot of times there's a lot of figurative language that goes into it as well. And so I guess I'm curious, do you prefer poetry that has more literal language, or do you prefer it when it has a lot of figurative language to it?
I guess it depends on the piece, because, I mean, I usually prefer figurative language because I like studying things and seeing what they actually mean, and I like symbolism and metaphors, of course, and stuff like that. And I think using figurative language can really just make a piece beyond like what it could be if it was concrete. And then I also find if you use figurative language, your poem has like the sense of like beauty. Like there's so much beauty in the world, but there's so much like that counteracts it, and it's like a victorious defeat kind of thing. Like there's good things happening and there's bad things happening, but they kind of like clash together, and that's just what it is.
I see, and I liked the paradox you threw in there with the victorious defeat. That was good. But yeah, so you've said so you prefer figurative poetry, and so do you think that poetry in particular, like compared to other forms of, I guess, speaking about literature in this case, do you think that poetry itself has more opportunities for people to sort of incorporate that figurative language and kind of break the concrete molds?
I guess it's easier because, like in it's like if you read a poem, it's kind of what you expect. But if you read a book, like most books nowadays, they aren't really like like most of the popular books, like John Green and stuff. Like there's not really like a lot of figurative aspects or like, I guess like there's metaphors, but that's not like encompassing the whole thing. It's like a lot of books, like in modern times, are really concrete. And of course, like that's not all of them. Like there's still a lot of really like
Figurative books.
And like abstract. Like a book I recently read was Wolf in the White Van by John Darnielle, which is just like one aspect of it was just like how like crazy life is, I guess.
Right. Well, actually, I haven't read that book. What did you say it was called?
Wolf in the White Van.
Wolf in the White Van. So, what exactly is that about? Is it about like an actual wolf in an actual white? No.
It's like, I guess the basic premise is a boy has like tried to commit suicide and he shot himself in the face. And then like he wakes up and of course his face is completely mangled, and it's just kind of about, I guess, like his recovery from that kind of. And yeah, you should read it yourself and figure out what it's about.
I see. And so yeah, I actually, on the subject of literature and poetry, I guess, with poems, I think a lot of people have this sort of idea that it's all about like the rhyming and sort of like poems have a lot more sort of
like rhythm.
Yeah, rhythm and structure to it. And I was just wondering, do you feel that way about poetry? Do you think it has a lot more like rhythm and structure and things of that nature than other literature?
I guess for most people, that's what they think of like poems. They think like you have to rhyme, we go through your time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you have to like, you know, have all the like rhyming things. But I think it's just one device you can use in it, in your poem to make parts stand out.
Right.
Like the AB structure doesn't have to be the entire thing. It could just be like free verse, like a little bit prosy, and then like the parts that you want to stand out, you can rhyme, and then people will go like, oh, he's rhyming, like I'm gonna really pay attention now.
Right. Yeah.
And then the structure, I guess, is just whenever you want to introduce like a new thing. That's usually when I put like a new stanza in one of my poems, and it's just like a natural break, I guess.
I see. And so it's interesting you mentioned that with, you know, just going back to like other forms of like literature and books, a lot of times when you write, say, like a research paper or something, when you want to introduce sort of a new idea or you want to transition over, you do a new paragraph. And so do you think it's the same way with most poems, like doing the new stanzas, or do you think a lot of them kind of just like go on without a whole lot of like the stanzas and the structure?
Well, I guess it just really depends on what you want, because it's your poem, you can just write it however you want. But I guess if you want like each stanza to be its own idea, you would do that. But if you want like if you're doing like a spoken poem, sometimes stanzas are there just for like emphasis. Like so you go through your poem and then like the last line of the stanza, you do it more powerfully. And so I guess it's just like a reminder to like say your powerful line and then let it sink in.
Right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Actually, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that with sort of like you've got like spoken poetry, and then you've also got written poetry, and then because with what I do, right? Because I do forensics, right? So I write speeches and I perform these speeches, and so they're all like spoken word, and so I tend to write them in a different way than I would write, say, like an essay or a research paper or something of that nature. And so with that, do you think people usually write spoken word poems differently than they would poems that they just kind of want you to like read, I guess?
Yeah, well, because also if you're doing a spoken word, it's usually more concrete than abstract, because you only have one chance for the audience to hear it. So you can't expect them to be able to grasp like if you say something really abstract that like connects with something else earlier in your poem, like, oh, this line matches with this line, like they're not going to be able to make that connection when they hear it.
Right.
Like they really, if you write something abstract, it has to be on paper, or it doesn't have to be on paper because you can do whatever you want. But like, if you want people to understand it, you should put it on paper.
I see. That makes sense. So yeah, with that. So let's see, what did you mention? You mentioned you like poetry, you like tennis. Are there any, and then you like music as well, right?
Yeah.
And so with poetry, I think a large part of it kind of stems from like hip hop and like rap music that has like a lot of rhythm and a lot of sort of emphasis on like spoken word and I guess things of that nature.
Because like rap is all about like your delivery. Like that's one of the largest things about it. Like whoever, like if you go fast, people are gonna pay attention. But then also like
if you go
slow, people are like, whoa, what's this going on?
Right.
Like, and then also, or something also I really like about like rap and hip hop is the sampling. Like a Tribe Called Quest, like they use a lot of sampling, and then Wu-Tang Clan, I really like them. They use a lot of samples in there. Like the thematic aspect of rap is really present.
So you're saying sampling. What exactly does that mean?
So I guess sampling is when you you could use anything in a sample. Like it's a sound bit that you put into your song to add layers to it. So you could sample like from another song.
Right.
Like that's something a lot of people do to add to their own music. And then like you could walk down the street and just hear like, you could walk around with a tape recorder and just record things, and you could record people talking, and then you'd want to put that in your song because what they said might be like an idea in your song, so you could play that in the beginning.
Oh wow, yeah.
Or if you hear like a bus just make like a really weird noise when it breaks, you can put that in your song, and it just adds like depth to it, I guess.
Yeah. And so you said you like rap music and you like hip hop music. Are there any other music genres that sort of that you like, I guess?
Well, I'm really big on samples, so I also like more of the like avant-garde and like I guess like psychedelic music, like Animal Collective and Atlas Sound and stuff like that, where they use samples again to add layers and stuff like that.
And so that's not exclusive to just rap or hip hop, the sampling. I see.
And then also I pretty much like, like the classic thing people say is like, oh, I listen to everything except like rap and country.
Right, yeah.
And but I mean, like, you can't just discard an entire genre. Like, that's just silly.
Yeah, especially if you've like just heard one song from it.
And of course, if you hear a song on the radio, it's probably gonna be not that good.
Right, yeah. I mean, not necessarily.
I mean, just because like radio music is just kind of played. Like, it's just kind of
background.
Yeah, it's kind of background noise.
What's popular at that time. And that's actually another interesting thing now that you've got me on popularity. Do you think that popularity is always necessarily attributed to how like good something is or how much like skill or talent it has? Or do you think that like advertising and putting like money and like more of a financial focus on something sort of gets it out there more?
Well, there's like this really good song that I like, and it's called What Would Pussy Riot Do? Which is like, if you know anything about that Pussy Riot, the band, basically they stood up against the Russian government and then got thrown in jail. And so they're kind of like the epitome of like, like freedom in your music and like
sort of going against what's
like going against like the status quo. And so in the song, basically, it like encourages musicians to not sell out, like make your own thing, because if you advertise your music a lot, then it's going to be picked up on like the radio, and of course that'll get you money, but then also like the advertisers are going to want you to change your content
so that you can appeal to more people, right?
Because I think one thing about popularity is like, is that like in a capitalistic country, it probably stems from how much advertising, or not probably, I definitely think it stems from advertising. So once like a big company, like you get a big record label to sign you, and then like you're in like the exclusive club that gets on the radio, I guess.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
But then but then like they tell you what to write, basically.
Right, yeah. And so it kind of, or not kind of, it really sort of restricts like what you can and can't do, and changes like the quality of your music, I guess. And in some cases, probably even like the whole genre that you're going for. So.
And I guess that's why like people say, oh, there's no good music these days, but it's just because they really aren't looking.
Right.
And they like it's all like good music is basically music that hasn't been made like popular, because with popularity, then you have to like sell out in this, to get the popularity. So if you don't sell out, then you're be able to write authentic, and I think writing authentically is the best way to do something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think so too. And I think with writing authentically, even if it's not necessarily popular, even if it's not necessarily what other people want you to do, at least you're sort of following yourself and being true to yourself. And I think that definitely has a lot of merits to it. And yeah, being honest and being, yeah. So I think that's a good quality to have.
Well, because I guess also it's like, just because if you're not writing from your perspective, I guess your work is going to be different, which isn't bad, but...
Necessarily, right.
Yeah. But it's still it's not really going to be yours, because you're just writing what other people want you to write.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. So yeah, those are some very good points. And so let's see, what else is there? And so I guess we haven't talked about this a whole lot on this particular episode, and I guess we kind of have to mention it. How do you feel about school, I guess?
Oh, school?
Yeah. And what do you like about it, dislike about it? What classes do you enjoy or not enjoy?
I guess I like classes that classes that you can do anything in, but I don't mean like mess around.
Right.
I mean, well, because, obviously everything I've talked about has kind of been dealing with like music and poetry, so obviously you could guess that my favorite class is English. And so in English, you just like, in an essay, your points could just be anything.
Right.
And as long as you prove them, like, and make them, like, they make sense, then they're yours, like. And like I said, writing from your perspective is the best thing you can do. Like, it's about anything.
Yeah.
And so that's why English is the class that I enjoy the most, definitely.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, actually. And so with that, you were saying, like, with the messing around, I think a lot of people attribute some of the more like artsy classes, such as like music or art or even English in some cases, to be more like people who aren't as like serious about working and who maybe just want to mess around and aren't as serious about life in some cases. And so do you think that that's like an accurate assessment, or do you think that like, well, I mean, you could say that about like any class?
Yeah, well, I guess like if you say like not serious about life, I think it's kind of the opposite, that if you're into like art and music and stuff like that, it's that you're so serious about life
that you want
that you have to talk about. Like, it's not like something you want to do, it's just something you have to do. And it's like you're so invested in it that you like it so much, then it's like you're so serious about it,
right?
That, like, you have to let other people know what you're thinking.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's a good point, actually. And so, speaking of, I guess, liberal arts, I think not only do people attribute that to sort of being, people who may not be as serious about life and, just may not be
or like, what are you going to do with a Bachelor of Arts in English?
Right, yeah.
Or like, what are you going to do with an art degree? Like people think like you just like go to college and then like you make your like art piece and then like
Yeah.
and then you become a teacher.
Right.
That's basically like what liberal arts is kind of like expects you to do.
Right.
But I mean, that's not even bad because then you just teach other people to enjoy expressing themselves.
Yeah.
But I mean, but then also if you become a teacher, you don't really have time to express yourself and make your own pieces.
And so with that, do you think that you can get more out of helping others to express themselves, or do you think that you can get more out of trying to express yourself and trying to sort of be yourself and get yourself out there? Like, which one do you think is more powerful, I guess?
Well, I guess it depends because like some people are gonna like they're gonna like to connect four and win the game, and then well, I guess like some people they really like helping others. They really like helping other people like find themselves, like therapists and counselors, and then like like a lot of teachers like the teachers sometimes are the people that found the clubs, like they will like make the poetry club so other people can express themselves and because they like to hear it, and then the other people are the people that do poetry, so it's like some people, and then like some people open an art museum and then the other people put the art in it.
Right. Yeah. And so yeah, that's actually, now that you mentioned that, I just thought of something. Do you think that like art museums and like clubs and things that these people are starting, I guess liberal arts kind of people are starting, do you think that they would be like better or worse, or how do you think they would be affected if the people who founded them put more of themselves into it and sort of participated more in it and maybe put their own work in it?
Well, I mean, I don't know. That would probably just help because, like, if you have more art, then more people are just gonna watch, or like not watch. I mean, like look at it and appreciate it. So, and then I guess if they're making things, and maybe like if the coach or whatever of the poetry club is making his own poem. And then he presents it to everyone, maybe the other kids will
be inspired.
Yeah, and then they'll say like, oh, like if he did it, I can do it.
Right, yeah.
Or they'll get like confidence, like if you get confidence from watching someone you admire do something and you say like, oh, I want to do that too.
Right, and be like them.
Yeah.
And sort of having these like coaches and such be more effective role models by putting themselves into their work and into what they do. I like that. And so let's see. So, and so you said that your favorite classes are like English and such.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I was gonna mention this before, but in elementary school, right, there was, I don't think there was a single year where we didn't have at least like one art class and one music class, and I feel like there was more of this. Maybe not necessarily focus on the arts, but there was definitely like the requirement to do that. So do you think that high schoolers and middle schoolers and people who don't necessarily have to take these classes, do you think they would benefit from sort of having to take them, or even just being exposed to them?
Well, it's like one thing that is kind of weird is like children are always children are imaginative, and that's one thing like people value. And when you're a child, you're required to take art and music,
right?
And then like PE, and then like after that, like once you get into middle school, those aren't required anymore except PE.
Yeah, and that's I wouldn't call PE a liberal arts.
But I mean, still, it's like children are imaginative, and required to take art and music, and then once they're not children anymore, it's like not valued.
I see. Yeah, and especially since, like, I mean, every year, yes, you do have to take like an English class, but then for most of high school, you like absolutely have to take like a science and absolutely have to take like a math class, even if you have no interest in these things.
Yeah, it's like you have to take math and science.
Yeah.
And then if you can't do them, like people will say like you're not trying hard enough. But then if like someone tries to write a poem and they write it badly, they just say like, oh, you're just not a poet. And so it's like people that are interested in artsy things are like during high school are just forced to do all those like
Math
STEM,
and science,
like the STEM,
the
yeah.
STEM, yeah. I see. And so, do you think? And I guess I kind of already asked this, but how do you feel like the ways that people who go into STEM, like, how do you feel their ability to sort of like express themselves may or may not be affected by their career choice and not sort of having to like be more artsy and have to express themselves?
I guess like everyone's creative in their own way, and I guess like some people get a creative high off of discovering like scientific things or like becoming a business leader.
Right.
So I guess it's just everyone just has their own way for putting their energy into something that they're proud of.
Yeah. And so you wouldn't say like STEM or business or any of those are less valuable because you're not expressing yourself, I guess, in the same ways, but actually that you can still like express yourself through these mediums and that they are good.
Yeah, and it's just like, just do what you want to do.
I think that's a good point to make. So yes. Anyway, we are just about out of time. It has been great having you on the show. We had a nice game of Connect Four. I gotta say, I didn't even see the 4 in a row, and I think you actually had like 2 or 3 of them lined up to get there. So that's pretty good. Anyway, I hope that the audience enjoyed the SpongeBob-themed Connect Four. I know we didn't talk about it as much as you may have liked, or maybe we didn't talk about it, so you liked that. But yeah, no, it's always fun to talk about these things and life and career choices and such. So yeah, a real pleasure having you on.